Good morning, everyone. I will go ahead and call the regular board meeting for Western Municipal Waters District Board of Directors to order, please. Madam Secretary, could we go ahead and call the roll for the board, please?
Thank you, Madam President. As permitted under Assembly Bill 361, in an effort to protect the public health, prevent the spread of COVID-19, and because state and local officials are recommending measures to promote social distancing, the public may view this board meeting online or virtually. The public may also attend the meeting in person. Masks will be required for members of the public who have not received the COVID-19 vaccination. The meeting is live streamed online at WMWD.com. As stated on the agenda, members of the public who wish to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the district or any item on the agenda may make comments in person, virtually via Zoom, or by submitting comments on the district's website. Comments received on the district's website before 4:30 p.m. October 5th, 2021 will be made part of the board meeting record. For those participating in the Zoom virtual meeting who wish to provide public comments, please indicate such by using the raise hand feature, and we will call on you individually. You can access the raise hand feature by opening the participant list and clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of the list. For those participating by telephone who wish to provide public comment, you may do so by pressing *6 to unmute yourself. Phone callers can also press *9 to activate the raise hand feature. If there is more than one caller, you will be identified and called on one at a time. Any public comment will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. However, the presiding officer reserves the right to reduce the amount of time you will be allowed to speak to ensure that all members of the public have an opportunity to provide their comment. I will now take roll call for the meeting. Due to the complexity of conducting this meeting by Zoom and telephonically, I will not be taking roll call for staff members or the public at this time. Director Roten.
I am here. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Director Rizvi.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning. Thank you. Director Gardner.
Present.
Thank you. Good morning. Director Torres.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning. Thank you. President Denstedt. Thank you. Good morning. President Denstedt, you do have a quorum today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. At this time, we'll go ahead with the Pledge of Allegiance. I understand we have another recording from one of our employees. Is that correct? Great.
Yeah, we have Sharon Druin from Operations
Great.
helping
if
us out
everybody could
today.
join us in the pledge, please.
I'm Sharon Druin. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We appreciate our employees taking part in our board meeting. We'll go ahead with public comment. This is for items which are not currently posted on our agenda today for action by this board, and under the jurisdiction and subject matter that this board has the ability to be able to act upon. Madam Secretary, is there anyone who wishes to comment under public comment today?
President Denstedt, I see no members of the public in the audience. We have no hands raised, and I have not received any written comments as of this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to our consent calendar item. Is there any board member who wishes to pull any item from consent today? Madam Secretary, is there anybody wishing to comment on any consent calendar item today?
I see no one requesting to speak.
Okay, looking for a motion.
Madam President, I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. I have a motion and a second. Can we go ahead and call for the roll call vote, please?
Director Roten.
Yes.
Director Rizvi.
Yes.
Director Gardner.
Yes.
Director Torres.
Yes.
President Denstedt.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 6 on our agenda, items to be added today. Mr. Miller or General Counsel Mr. Ferre, is there anything to be added to our agenda today?
Nothing to add today.
Nothing to add.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate that. Moving on to our action agenda item this morning, we'll go ahead and start off with 7A, consideration of the resolution continuing virtual meetings under the new provisions. So
We-
very, very interesting, very complicated, and Mr. Miller.
We do have new provisions. We will be required to make a monthly resolution to continue the virtual capabilities to have those meetings. So this is the required resolution 3196 to authorize remote teleconferencing / virtual meetings of the Western legislative bodies. So this puts us in compliance with the Brown Act provisions. Happy to answer questions, or I'm sure Mr. Foray would help us answer questions.
Sure.
A lot of time has gone into understanding this, but we will be bringing this back on a monthly basis as long as the board wants to continue with this process.
Okay.
Until January, right? When
Until
this
January.
expires.
Well, no, until the COVID state of emergency proclamation ends. And as mentioned, it's a little complicated, but basically, as long as there's the COVID state of emergency proclaimed by the governor, then we can proceed with this procedure.
I believe it's any state of emergency. So it could be drought-related,
Yeah.
fire-related,
Right.
flood-related. If there's a state of emergency declared by the governor, then.
A statewide.
Yeah,
Right.
statewide.
I was only talking
Emergency.
about getting
Right.
through the first current
Yeah.
emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's knock on wood, please. We're not asking for additional.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just one other item is, what the law says is that if there has to be an actual emergency proclaimed, number one, and number two, either that the state has recommended or mandates social distancing. And that's the basis upon which we're doing this resolution. And it's anticipated that at least a recommendation for social distancing will remain. So as long as that remains, we use that justification for this resolution. If, for example, that doesn't apply at some point, and there's still the state of emergency going on, then we would come back with a resolution for the board to decide whether or not there is an immediate danger. That would be something that the board would have to decide at the local level. But for now, because there is still a COVID state of emergency, and still the recommendation to be socially distanced, that's how we're proceeding.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and see if there's any public comment on this item, Madam Secretary.
I see no members of the public wishing to speak at this time.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Any comments or questions of the members of the board?
Move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. I have a second by Director Gardner. I think your mic was not on. Okay. Any further comments? Okay, if you could please call for the roll.
Thank you. Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Yes.
Director Torres?
Yes.
President Dinstead?
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you very much. Moving on to 7B of our agenda, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, item 7B is a resolution recognizing the week of October 2nd through the 10th as Water Professionals Appreciation Week. So Sarah McDonald is here to talk about the outreach that we're doing to celebrate this week. So Sarah, I'll turn it over to you.
President, Vice President, members of the board. As introduced, I'm Sarah McDonald, Director of Strategic Communications, and it's truly a pleasure to be here today to introduce Resolution 3195. By adopting this resolution, Western is going to be joining water districts from across the state in celebrating the hard work of all of our water and wastewater professionals, everything that they do to provide persons in California with safe, reliable water and wastewater services. Each year, the Association of California Water Agencies, more commonly and lovingly known as ACWA, sponsors a concurrent resolution to dedicate this full week of October as Water Professionals Appreciation Week. Like last year, however, no resolutions were actually taken up by the state legislature because of the pandemic, but nonetheless, water districts are still coming together to collectively celebrate this special week. As you know, water and wastewater services are critical, and without it, our communities wouldn't be a thriving region that you see today. There are thousands of people that work day and night, no matter the pandemic conditions, to guarantee that every home, business, and industry has the water services that they need on demand when they need it. Again, all of this could not be possible, certainly not here in Western Riverside County, without the work of so many dedicated professionals. So what are we doing to celebrate? Western did kick off this week on our digital platforms, showcasing staff, putting the faces behind the services that we provide so that our customers can see and appreciate their good work. So I would really encourage all of you to follow us on our platforms and share that information out. It really helps spread that message and spread that appreciation so that our staff can really be seen out there, and also it helps humanize our own organization. Today, Western's going to be also distributing a news release that will highlight our very highly skilled and professional workforce, as well as recognizing those throughout the state. Our general manager did send out an appreciation email to all staff yesterday, and also announced that our Human Resources Department is bringing back Wellness Wednesdays, which is the first Wednesday of every month, to really encourage our employees to focus on wellness and well-being so that they can continue serving to the best of their capabilities. And new this year, we are actually debuting some videos that feature thank yous from people in our own communities and in our own service areas. So before I conclude, I would like to show one of these videos for you today. So with that, Spencer, if you can roll that video.
I would like to extend our personal thanks to the Western Municipal Water District employees for making sure that water keeps flowing to fight the fires in the community.
Thank you, water professionals, for helping us wash those germs away.
When I flush the toilet, I don't even have to think twice. It's just gone. Thank you for keeping the grass green.
Thank you for providing water now and for the future.
Cannot take care of our patients without you.
Gracias por todo el tiempo, trabajo y esfuerzo que ustedes ponen para asegurar que tengamos agua en nuestra comunidad.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for working so hard so that I can go in the pool, brush my teeth, and wash my face and take a shower. Thank you for giving us water.
Thank you, water professionals.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you for keeping the water flowing. Thank you for providing us water for my cute doggy and me and my family. And without you guys, we wouldn't be alive right now.
It does take the commitment of water professionals working 24/7 to make it happen.
Thank you, water professionals, for servicing our community.
Thank you for bringing us water.
Thank you, water professionals.
Gracias por todo su trabajo.
I like water.
Thank you, water professionals.
Thank you, water professionals.
Thank you, wastewater professionals, for all you do.
Thank you.
So with that, I am happy to answer any questions that you might have and would recommend the board adopts Resolution 3195.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and see if there's public comments on this item first, because that was really a cute video, and I know everybody wants to say something about it.
We have none.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll bring it up to the board. I will start, excuse me, excuse me. I will start to my left. Director Risby.
I think, congratulations, you guys, this is amazing. The video was so cute. Whoever came up with great jobs, kudos to you. It was, wow, it was very, uplifting this early in the morning. So great job. And, I move to approve and adopt this resolution.
I second it. Thank you. I'll go ahead and continue with comments. I got a first and a second. Director Roughton.
Well, I'll third.
Okay, we've got a new policy.
This is the first I've known of this particular week of celebration, so it's very fitting of our organization as well as other folks in the world of water. So thank you. And I'm realizing more and more every day what the importance of water, but the importance of all the folks that bring it to us. So I appreciate that. And yes, the video was great. I couldn't stop smiling. So.
Thank you. Director Gardner, any comments? No, I was going to go Vice President last.
At this point, there's not a whole lot more to say than me too. But I do wonder whether the young man making the face was told that his face is going to be like that forever. I was that age.
Absolutely. Director Torres.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much. I know this has been something that I've seen in other organizations do it, and I've brought up over and over again. And I saw the reels yesterday. Unfortunately, Monday was a bad day for us, but I really think that this is going to go a long way for people to understand where their rate payments are going. I truly believe that, and that this is, aside from being so stinking cute, I love that it's inclusive as well. It's just a wonderful, wonderful job, and I really appreciate it. And as a water professional myself, I thank you.
And I will go ahead and comment too, that was a really super cute video. So there's two things that always get the public, and those are kids and puppies. So, and I don't know how puppies could thank our staff, perhaps, but definitely really cute, good message. And I certainly want to extend my thanks and gratitude for the staff and the work that all of our water professionals here do every single day to serve our customers. So thank you very much for that. With that, Madam Secretary, we have a motion and a second. Could you go ahead and call for the roll call vote, please?
Yes, thank you. Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Yes.
Director Torres?
Absolutely.
President Instead?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. Go ahead and move on to item 7C on our agenda, consideration for the appointments to the Western Riverside County Regional Wastewater Authority Board of Directors. Mr. Miller.
Thank you. This is a requirement of the JPA that, remember, we modified our matrix with Director Roten coming on board. We made some modifications, so this is just the administrative follow-through. Some of the JPAs require an actual resolution when you change. A lot of the others just require notification from our board secretary. RCRA requires a resolution, so it's just notifying them that Director Roten has been added as an alternate to RCRA.
Okay.
So move.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, but I'm going to go ahead. Is there any public comment on this item?
I see none.
Any comments from any members of the board?
Congratulations.
Okay, welcome.
I'm not sure, but
maybe, yes.
She's attending all the meetings, and she's going to be a great partner, so I look forward to having her with me.
Great. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Can we go ahead and call for the roll call vote, please?
Yes, thank you. Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Rizvi?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Yes.
Director Torres?
yes.
President Instead?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
And I'm sorry, I mean, congratulations. So, okay.
It's all good.
No, it's a very interesting dynamic over there with a lot of individuals that collaborate on that issue. And I sat on that board for a number of years, and you will learn a lot about the agency and a lot about what's going on in your end of the region, which will be very helpful, I think. So
I agree.
Okay. Moving along, I see that our Director of Engineering has taken his position at the post here to discuss the next item on 7D. Mr. Miller, did you want to kick it off, or did you want me to kick it directly to him?
He's ready to roll. This is something that was brought to the Engineering Committee on Monday. This is an excellent opportunity for us to move forward with the acquisition of property to ultimately build a well. This is something we've been looking for a long time, and our staff has done an excellent job finding property and negotiating property, so we're bringing it to the board for consideration. So with that, Derek, if you could give us the details, that'd be great.
Great, thank you. Yeah, this particular item we did bring to the Engineering Committee just 2 days ago. However, it was as a report out. Typically, we will do discussion and move it forward to the board, but we were essentially trying to move this along, and we wanted to get it in front of the board as soon as possible for action. So forgive me for going into much more detail than I normally would at a board meeting. So as part of the Santa Ana River Conservation and Conjunctive Use Program, or SARCUP, Western is committed to developing groundwater resources so that water can be recharged in wet years and produced in dry years. The Well 7 project is intended to produce groundwater from the Riverside Groundwater Basin. Staff have identified a location for this well that is proposed to be in the parking lot of the Magnolia Presbyterian Church. Previous hydrological studies indicate that this location could be a good site for groundwater production, and it is relatively close to the existing water conveyance. Staff have negotiated what we believe to be a very good property lease with the option to buy as an agreement. The church administration has agreed to the terms of this agreement. In the agreement, Western is proposing to lease a 20-foot by 20-foot portion of the parking lot at a cost of $1,500 per month for up to 1 year, with the option to purchase the land at a cost of $100,000. The agreement includes a temporary access easement to perform the construction of a pilot well to confirm that the groundwater production capability of the site meets all of our requirements. The lease agreement will have the ability to exit the agreement if, say, the geologic exploration does not confirm that this would be a good producing well site. The total cost for the agreement is $125,000, including the land purchase, the easements, the escrow costs such as title insurance. After this property lease is approved, staff will start the process of verifying that the site will produce high-quality water at acceptable flow rates. Once that is verified, we will execute the purchase agreement and begin design. Staff is requesting a budget of $135,000 for staff cost and $90,000 for professional services from Harder & Associates. The total budget that staff is requesting at this time is $350,000. The actions requested for this item are: first, approve a budget amendment for the project of $250,000 for a total of $350,000. Second, authorize the general manager to execute an agreement for a real property lease with the option to purchase for a 20-foot by 20-foot portion of assessor's parcel number 230-142-016, together with associated easements. And three, approve $125,000 for costs related to the property lease and for 1 year, and the purchase of the parcel pending favorable well tests and pumping results. We ask the board for the support of this next step in securing additional water supply. I now invite your questions and discussion.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and look for public comment first. Madam Secretary, is there anyone who wishing to speak and comment on this item?
I see no request to speak at this time.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Are there any questions on this item?
I have a quick question. What division is this well going to be in?
I believe it's Division 1.
It's in Division 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is.
What's the actual location?
It's located on Magnolia. The map is actually up on the
Near Madison and Magnolia.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's at Magnolia Presbyterian Church.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Other questions?
So move.
Second.
Okay. I had a really quick question. Well, actually, I had two quick questions.
Yeah.
How did you make a determination on the price that you fixed to the lease?
Well, the lease, essentially the lease is essentially a portion of the purchase value. So what we do is we look at it over, let's say, a 20-year period, divide up what the cost for that land would be, and we make it a monthly amount. So it's a very common approach that we do for assessing leases.
Okay, and how are we determining the purchase price?
The purchase price was negotiated, and we have confirmed that this is a favorable amount to Western based on land values in the area.
Okay. And out of what budget? Because this is not currently in our budget, is that correct?
This will be paid for out of SARCUP grant funds.
Okay, That's what I wanted to make sure that we were clarifying, that it's part of the SARCUP total, and it's already been, okay, because I didn't remember this on our CIP stuff, so I wanted to make sure that we were out of the right accounts.
So it's a good question, because we've been, there's SARCUP funds that were available, and I get one way to say it is not spoken for by other agencies or entities. And so there was funding available, and so our water resources staff was able to come up with a project, get an agreement from all the SARCUP agencies. This was a benefit. So those funds then were applied to this well site because it benefits the SARCUP program.
Thank you. And there is an exit clause on the side of both parties, is that correct? Or is it just on our side?
It's essentially on our side. There's a all-purpose exit clause, but for the most part, it would be up for us to verify that we do get the land for the purposes that we're seeking, which is to produce high-quality water at a good rate of flow.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any other questions? Okay, we had a motion and a second. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I've got that down. We'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Thank you. Director Roten?
Yes.
Director Risby?
Yes.
Director Gardner?
Yes.
Director Torres?
Yes.
President Dinstedt?
Yes.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very
Directors.
much. Okay, keep going on SARCUP. It's important stuff.
No, SARCUP, and kudos to Ryan Shaw and the Water Resources staff. As I've told the board before, when that program started, Western was not going to get any of the grant funding, and now we're up to almost half of the grant funding has come to Western to build projects for our service area and the entire program. So it's been a real success story. And I thank the board for your support, because it's complicated and these are big decisions.
No,
We
it's
appreciate your time on this.
A lot of moving parts. And gentlemen, if you could go ahead, because I keep forgetting to do this, and I really need to make sure that I circle back with this stuff. But could you go ahead and say what SARCUP is, the acronym, please? Because we're really bad at doing acronyms, and while some of the board members may not be real familiar with it yet, certainly members of the public are not. So
It's
we
the
could
Santa
just-
Ana River Conservation and Conjunctive Use Program. So it's a dry year storage program. So as we're going into a drought, this is exactly the program that we would utilize to get through a drought. Our timing's a little off in that we're still building the facilities, but next drought, this will really come into play. But this is what we do to avert statewide drought emergencies and to help Metropolitan as they get into shortages, so that we have our own local water, so that we're self-sufficient during shortages.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, going on to items on our agenda for 7E for retail customer past balance recovery process. Good morning.
All right, this is considering the approval of reinstatement of the retail customer past due balance recovery process. So staff has been working on this for quite some time. We've presented it twice at our finance committee. Finance committee agreed with bringing it back to the board for consideration. It's complicated. Kevin Mascaro is here, our director of finance, to explain the details of how we're going to hopefully roll back into our collection process. So with that, Kevin.
Great, thank you, Mr. Miller. Good morning, members of the board and the public. By the way, if you thought that water and wastewater appreciation video was adorable, wait till you see this presentation.
Stop.
Okay. I'm really glad that I was
You better
saved.
find a puppy quick.
Spencer, get me a puppy. All right. Before we go into the slide
So
presentation. First, I would like to give some background on this topic before we get into the presentation. So, as you know, a little over a year and a half ago, in March of 2020, Western's Board of Directors approved a resolution that authorized the temporary suspension of interest, late fees, and disconnection, or shut-off, of retail customer water service due to non-payment as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, Shortly thereafter, the governor of California issued an executive order suspending disconnection of retail customer water service due to non-payment. The governor's suspension of water shutoffs was recently given an end date of December 31st, 2021. So the purpose of this agenda item is to request via Resolution 3197 the reinstatement of Western's past due account balance recovery process, which would allow for charging late interest and late fees and allow water service disconnection due to non-payment, effective with bills dated on or after December 1st, 2021. Now, it's very important to emphasize that if the past due recovery process is reinstated by the board, then the earliest a shutoff would occur due to non-payment is mid-February 2022, and that would be after 4 separate notices have been provided to the customer. Now, for customers with a past due balance, shutoff and late fees can be avoided by simply contacting a member of the customer service team to establish a payment arrangement, as described in the board letter and in this presentation. This action, as Mr. Miller mentioned, was presented for discussion in detail at the September 13th Finance Committee of the board, and the committee did agree to forward it on to the board for consideration. So there are several factors that have led staff to make this recommendation. Let's look at the first slide, and I'll address the first factor. That was not a PowerPoint transition sound. We did away with those quite some time ago. Challenge. All right, well, accounting people like graphs, and so on the left, the graph has to addresses dollars that are past due. The blue line, or the top line, addresses past due balances that are 31 days or more past due. And then the lower line, or the orange line, is past due balances that are 60 days past due, which is a subset of the blue line. On the right-hand side, it talks about number of accounts. So you see that our past due balance, 31 days or more, we've got just under 1,200 customers, representing right about 5% of our customer base. But the orange line I want to draw a little more attention to, this is the past due balance 60 days or more, and 632 customers fit into this category. And if you'll notice, somewhere around January, so about the middle of the graph, it starts to kind of level out, like it's reached, 600 or so plus or minus customers are pretty much the ones, I don't know if we can say this definitively, but likely there's a core of 600 customers that are unable to pay their bill, and so they remain. And then the rest, the blue line folks, they come in and out, they pay their last bill, they're delayed a little bit, then they get caught up and so forth, so they kind of bounce in and out of past due. But it's that orange line that we've been watching more closely lately, because that has to do with the state's arrearage program, which I'm going to be announcing some excellent news in just a couple slides, but I'll keep you waiting. All right, next slide, please. It's a cliffhanger. Who knew? So a couple folks have asked, who are some of these folks, or what can you tell us about these folks that are maybe of the highest past due amount? So a couple weeks ago, we looked at the top 10 by dollar amount, and here it is. So there's really no particular commentary or conclusion, just some factoids about each customer. Most have been customers for a little while, good while. The very top one, sadly, it looks like the customer just became one of ours in May of 2020 as a tenant, and then there is a significant long-term leak going on, and staff attempted multiple times to urge the owner to repair it, and it was not going very successfully. So, I wouldn't. This is not the tenant's fault, in other words. But just to give you some idea of when water service started for these folks, owner or tenant, about 80% are owners. Overall, with all of our past due amounts, about 70% of the past due folks are owners. Irrigated area in square feet, just to put some of this in context, our median residential customer has about 5,000 square feet of irrigated area. So generally looking down that column, most customers have larger properties than, say, a median. So they're kind of on the larger side, which may be why they owe larger amounts of money from not paying, because they're irrigating more property.
Kevin?
Yes.
I have a question. Mm-hmm. So the lien filed, it says, on one property. Mm-hmm. Was it filed before? And it's on hold, or how does that work, right?
Yeah. Here's what we do. We watch the top, I think it's like 20 or so. We watch the top 20 outstanding, and I don't know if we use Zillow or something. Teresa could help me out with this, but we search to see if that property goes up for sale, we better get a lien on it. Because once it's sold and we don't have a lien on it, we just have to write that off. So this is a case where it was spotted that that parcel was coming up for sale, and we immediately filed a lien.
All right, perfect.
Other than that, though, we haven't been doing that. But we're watching if we can learn that a customer or a parcel is coming up for sale and owes a significant amount, we'll get a lien on there. So last payment date varies quite a bit. Some haven't paid the full, 16, 18 months. Some more recently. The next column was a little disappointing in that tier 4 and 5, that's the excessive water use way above budget. And what did I note here? About 58%? Yeah, 58% of the bills over the last 6 months were in this higher tier. So there's some concern there why they're overwatering. A couple customers, all 6 bills were using excessive amounts of water. So, okay, let's go into the next slide, and this is, I believe, the good news. I'm going to call it great news. So it's called the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program, a mouthful. Rather than referring to the acronym, I'm just going to call it the Arrearage Program. Okay, so you've probably heard of this. The State Water Board was provided with almost $1 billion in American Rescue Plan Act funding. The next sentence kind of says it all. There was a survey of all water agencies and wastewater agencies saying, hey, how much of your past due balance meets certain criteria, which I'll get into in a moment. So we filed ours by the deadline of September 10th, and we were thinking, look, we might get 40 cents on the dollar. Why? Because our past due balances, 60 days or more, have grown substantially. Just, you saw the graph, have grown substantially. I imagine others as well, too. But amazingly, only $330 million of water past due arrearages that met the criteria are going to be submitted. So that means 100% of these eligible bills. Okay, that's phenomenal. Anyway, I was going to say I'm a pessimist by nature. That was another shock in my life. This is fantastic. So I do want to emphasize, though, we cannot say, hey, anyone who has a past due balance, it's going to be gone. Why? Because the eligibility period fell within what was called the pandemic bill relief period, which is March 4th. So if you had service, or a bill that covered service that included March 4th, 2020, all the way, and you had a bill that included service that covered June 15th, those bills, and any bill that was 60 days past due by the survey date of September 10th, that's a lot of detail, but suffice it to say, that kind of limits it, okay? That limits it to a certain time frame, certain dollars. Now for Western, for both active and closed accounts, because we're able to submit both, we've got $625,000 that we'll be applying for and have every reason to expect. But again, what that doesn't do, though, is it doesn't cover water service that a customer will be billed for that were delivered in July, August, September, soon October. I mean, we'll have a November here, too. So, and that, of course, is concerning to all, that those bills will start to pile up. Mention a few other facts here. Priority for actually writing out a check from the State Water Board. They'll be starting those in November 1st. They'll go to small water systems, disadvantaged community systems first. But we're crossing our fingers that we'll have a check before the end of the month, because all this is being done electronically. The wastewater or sewer arrearages, they for some reason split it into 2 parts. I think because they didn't think that they would have enough money for the water balance. They split it into 2 phases. The wastewater will have its guidelines February 1st, which frankly is quite a ways away. So that, there may also be potential funding for lost revenue, like late fees that weren't charged by agencies. They're talking about costs to administer the program may be available. Suddenly, when you have some freed up money, other things may be allowed as well. So, again, some really good news from the state. We definitely want to make sure we help all of our customers understand the availability of a payment arrangement program, as well as the other assistance that could be available to them. As you've heard along the way, additional assistance may be available through the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program, administered by the Department of Community Services and Development. We've got the CARE program, and then the local United Lift program as well, too. All right, let's look at the next slide and see what some of our neighboring agencies are up to. As mentioned, Western staff is proposing to begin reinstating the past due recovery process beginning with the December bill, but actual late fees would begin to be applied in January, which I'll show you in a timeline in a couple slides from now. And shutoffs, as I mentioned, wouldn't occur until mid-February. But we're getting that process of notification going. And again, all late fees and shutoffs, of course, will be waived or suspended if a customer adheres to an established payment plan. We're starting a little bit later than others. Staff felt very comfortable with that. The third swath or third row, the payment arrangement duration, you see others are looking at about a 12-month maximum and some based on dollar amounts. Two things on this slide changed from when we presented it at the September Finance Committee. One is moving the effective date from November 1 to December 1, so we're recommending we push it back to December 1. Why? Because we want to hopefully get the money from the state, apply it to accounts, and then let people know, hey, we're reinstating the process if the board approves that. The second change was we had a tier of 0 to 500 needing to be paid. This is the far right column. 0 to 500 being paid over a 6-month period. And we did some math and looking some analysis. It's like, wow, that might be a little too much. That's going to be pretty high. So we just lumped that dollar amount into the next tier, which has a 12-month payment arrangement duration. And something I'd like to emphasize too, even though the longest payment arrangement term here would be 24 months, we stated in the board letter that for past due amounts over $2,500, a customer could make a written request to our general manager to have the payment duration extended to 36 months in order to accommodate a challenging financial situation. Bottom line is the primary objective of any payment arrangement is for it to be achievable by the customer. And the board letter also goes into more detail about the fourth row on this table, which addresses filing of liens. We touched on that a little bit, but what we would do is we would broaden that to be applied after the arrearage program credit got applied. If a property owner still had a past due balance of $500 or more and had a payment arrangement longer than a year, I think we need some additional protection, and we'll file a lien on the property. It doesn't affect them in any way unless they were to go and then sell the home prior to having that paid off. Alrighty, how about the next slide, please? Oh, look at all these numbers. Okay. Well, I would be walked to the front door if I was to explain every one of them, so I'm not going to do that. I promise. Little baby chihuahuas. Anyway, something adorable. Basically, what this is, if you've got the top third of the schedule, trying to address what could be the likely impact of a payment arrangement if you were, say, a small water user, someone using within 25th percentile of all of our customers. You're kind of in the lower amount. You had an average monthly usage of 1,600 cubic feet. What's your average bill? The middle section is if you're in the 50th percentile, you're right in the middle, mostly average there. And then if you're a high water user, you're way in the 75th percentile. We did this just to kind of get an idea of what kind of impact could it be to have to make up a payment arrangement. Well, when you saw this at the Finance Committee, this left-hand side was all filled in because we didn't expect to get 100% of that arrearage program money. So whether they have 5 bills, 10 bills, 16, if they're all eligible, that past due balance will be wiped out. So you're starting off with 0. But maybe you could have a July bill, July, August, September, October, November bill. Maybe I just picked 5 bills that are past due times the average monthly bill, total past due. Well, that we would put into a payment arrangement as well, too. And so based on the previous slide, you've either got 12 months, I think 18 months didn't show up because of the dollar amount, but then all the way up to 24. And then in the second to the last column, you get an idea of, you'd be paying an extra $35, $48, $43, depending somewhere in that range, most likely for a typical payment arrangement. And then the far right has the average bill plus that past due payment amount. Obviously, this is just a sampling. I mean, every customer will have a different number of bills past due, different dollar amounts associated with it. But this is to try to get an idea of maybe looking at the averages. I should also mention, too, that Western does have its $150 maximum credit from its bill payment assistance program to eligible customers. So if customers are on the CARE program and they haven't received that benefit in the last 12 months, that could chop off another piece of this past due amount. So that would get applied too. All right, we're past the big numbers, and let's just look at the timeline on the next slide. And this final slide presents the past due recovery timeline, and is based on the first bill being issued in December, which happens to be December 7th. And it reflects that Western's past due bill recovery process as outlined in the board-adopted policy, which was done back in December of 19. It's called the discontinuation of residential water service due to non-payment. So we have a board-adopted policy we need to adhere to, and that timing is reflected in this schedule. Customer outreach, of course, would begin in November as soon as that check from the state comes in the door, and then we continue to reach out to our customers about payment programs and other external assistance. The remaining columns show when each of the 4 notices would be issued to customers, when late interest and when a late fee would be applied, and then all the way down to a shutoff would occur if a customer hadn't established and adhered to an approved payment arrangement. So you're looking at mid-February, as I mentioned earlier. Still, there are, since there are many customers experiencing severe economic hardships, Western staff will continue to work with these customers and provide options for assistance. Again, assistance would include payment arrangement plans and information on financial assistance programs that are available through the state and county, as well as Western's own bill payment assistance program. So to summarize, staff recommends that the Board of Directors consider adoption of Resolution 3197 to reinstate the past due balance recovery process for our retail customers. And that concludes this adorable presentation, and staff is available for any comments.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I'll go ahead and look for public comment. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item?
I see no requests.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, questions from the board?
I don't have a question, but I wanted to compliment the staff on putting together a comprehensive and sensitive proposal. This is more generous than most of the other utilities around us. I know that RPU is about to do a reinstatement action as well. They're not on our tables here, but and on the electric side, Edison is. And I don't believe any of them are as flexible in working with customers as we are. And I think we owe it to our customers to be as flexible as we can while still being financially responsible and not putting our customers who do pay their bills in the position of being disadvantaged by people who don't pay their bills for whatever reason they're not paying. So I'm pleased by this. One thing that we discussed in committee that wasn't mentioned here is, well, the executive director has the ability to extend a time frame on his own authority. If a customer has something that is truly unique and truly deserves more time than is provided in the proposal, it can always come back to the board, and the board could approve a longer time frame. So I think we are as flexible as we possibly can be here. I think it's important that we do make sure our customers understand that this is coming back. And I think having it back will hopefully encourage people to enter into payment agreements and get started on that. And critically, from the customer's perspective, as long as they're in a payment agreement and are honoring it, they don't get shut off and they don't collect late fees or they don't accumulate late fees. So hopefully this will work. I think it's something we have to do, and I think we are doing it quite well, and I move approval.
Okay. Looking for other questions, comments?
I just wanted to thank the staff again, because it did come to the Finance Committee and we had a lot of questions, and staff really worked hard to bring this proposal to us. So I'll second it, and I really, really thank the staff for working so hard to be so flexible with our customers.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any other comments to follow up? Comments? Okay. I have a couple of questions just for points of clarity. So for the state funding relief that's supposed to be coming to us, hopefully hit our hands hot in November, are we going to automatically apply that, or are we waiting for people to contact us to then ask for the funds to be applied?
Oh, no, it becomes automatic. if we're in essence, we're applying on their behalf, it'll be automatic. They are required to, and of course we would anyway, we are required to send a letter to them letting them know this is what your past balance was, here's the credit, here's the source of the money, state wants credit, of course.
Right.
Here's the new balance, and that, payment arrangements are offered and so forth. Now, someone may not want it, so, they could contact us. I don't think that'll happen, but, it is an option for the customer.
Well, I guess it depends on if they're going, was there a determination, and this is just a question just out of the blue, so say somebody's got an outstanding bill of $1,000, and we provide a credit, you send them a letter saying that we've applied $1,000 because you were eligible to receive this credit on your bill, and then now, have there been a determination, or is there cause to say that this is taxable at this point because it's income being given for a purpose that's now being given to them? I just wonder if that question has been posed, because there might be some people that don't want to be involved with the tax implications.
It has been brought up, absolutely. And at the State Water Board, when the guidelines were adopted, maybe 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, because there is that sense that we may have to issue what's called a 1099-C, and it's a C because it's a debt relief. But I'll tell you, there is this massive movement of contacting state and federal electeds, as well as the IRS, to make a determination that this should not be placed into that category. So we're really hoping that that'll take place before when 1099s need to be issued, which is at the end of January. So in other words, it may be a case of, here you get $1,000, but you might have to pay $100, and I don't know, $50, $100, whatever, depending on your tax situation. You may have to, still you're net ahead, but it's like, being taxed on Christmas presents or something.
Yeah, no, but I want to make sure that it's that,
and that'll be in the
people
letter.
understand that level of discussion is still being out there, and that there's no determination been made at this point, and it certainly wouldn't be because we decided that. So this is coming from a very external source, so that we don't have any control over. So I just want to make sure that in all fairness, when we're doing our outreach and communication and notifying the public, that we're very transparent and very clear about that point. And then I want to ask a question. So you went back and just in your presentation, where did I just write the note? So 70%, by your estimate, of customers that are affected by this are actual homeowners, property owners. They are the residents and are incurring this themselves, which leaves 30% of unknown or tenants. So what is it that we're doing with that 30%? Because I understand the protection for the rest of the customers if it's an owner, and we have the ability to be able to file a lien should somebody choose to not comply with and follow through with the obligation that they've agreed to pay an outstanding bill. We have a leverage to be able to protect the rest of the customers that then would be burdened with having to make up that difference. How are we addressing that with a tenant that could then vacate the property months into this, especially if we're extending it and going into a 24-month period of time? How are we expecting to do that? I'm just asking for how we're going to do equity on that.
Nothing. I hate to say it. So if they leave, we have shut off, of course, if they fail to comply with their payment arrangement. But no, if someone leaves, if they have a 24-month, they leave at the 20th month, it would affect their credit. Because, that we do report to credit agencies, or we first send them to collections, like we do with anybody.
Right.
In other words, you're talking about something that's always, but generally a much smaller amount because we don't let things go that long. But yes, it would then, we would utilize our collection agency, and then ultimately it could affect their credit bureau reporting.
Is there trying to formulate this question in my head, sorry. Is there a way to then, at that point, if there were to be somebody who enters into an obligation, has a very large bill, and I'm not talking about something that's $100. I mean, that's de minimis I'm talking in the 4-digit range. If a notice could be sent to the property owner, and this may be a question of semantics, I don't know. But could a notice be sent to the property owner notifying them that the tenant is in this payment arrangement? Because at some point within our policy, when we've had delinquent properties in the past, we then push the bill back and the water, right? Because if they've had multiple tenants, and I'm looking at our customer service rep, because I'm aware of this, and I'm just trying to make sure that the public is aware of this for full transparency. If we've had a property that continually has tenants who are late on their bills, that just scoot out and don't pay it, we then revert and don't allow tenants to open those accounts anymore. That reverts back to the property owners, whereby then we have more leverage because we can then say, now you as the owner have to open this account in your name. So are we connecting that 30% in that fashion so that we're notifying the property owner that their tenant has an outstanding bill that could potentially put them in this situation down the road?
Two quick comments. One, our authority to be able to require it to be in the owner's name is given to us by the state water code, incidentally. As far as that goes, what we'd need to check is if we would be violating any privacy concerns by notifying the owner
yes,
of a tenant's delinquency.
So
Is that about right? Yeah.
that would be my ask in the inclusion of the motion, to have staff go back with some type of a consideration to make sure that we're capturing everybody, because I think it's equity here. Simply because you're a tenant, you shouldn't be able to just do that. So, and get out of a bill just by changing your address or deciding to move or doing something along those lines, especially if it's some of these really egregious water users that have been in, high tiers and have extended into this 4-digit number, and it's not going to come back and cover. So I just think that should be a consideration, that we figure out how to be as part of the process.
I would be interested in legal counsel's opinion here, but I would be very concerned that there could be some substantial liability to the district if we notify a landlord that their tenant has outside bills and they then take some sort of negative action against their tenant.
No, and that certainly isn't the spirit of it, and I
No,
understand that.
but
No, I understand that. I'm just trying to figure out how can we make sure that it's equitable,
Yeah, I have reservations about whether we can or should get involved in that way, but Mr. General Counsel?
Right. I think that the direction from the to staff is to look into what can possibly be done in this case. I think that's the most appropriate direction from the Madam President. But I wouldn't want to put anything else in the resolution or in the motion because, as Kevin mentioned, most of this is mandated by a particular sections of state law. So how one terminates, how one puts it on the landlord's bill, all of those things are pretty much mandated by law. But to direct staff to look into that and be sure to keep that at top of mind is certainly appropriate.
Yeah, so that would be my ask, is just to figure out how we can, if there's in fact a way to, because 30%, that's a third of the customers that we are, looking at. So I just want to make sure that we're being equitable and we're not holding a standard to owners versus tenants.
I agree that's worth looking at, but I don't want to put it in the motion.
Correct.
No, and that's fine. If we're under the understanding that that's the direction that we're giving to staff to come up with other alternatives to address that, because I just don't, like I said, it's an equity thing for me. I don't think we can hold a standard to property owners and not hold a standard to tenants. I think it should be equitable across the board and try to figure out, and I don't know what the answer is. That's why I'm asking for consideration to look at alternatives to try to figure out how we can kind of, I guess, close the loop on that, so that we don't have subsidy going on from one class of customers versus another.
Certainly, staff will research that and bring it back to a finance committee or to you.
And I was just going to say that what staff finds that they can do or not do is is probably already set in law, and they can inform you as to what they can and cannot do. It's probably not a matter of developing something new.
Okay. No, and that would be fine. So if we could just come back with that, at least we've looked at it and tried to figure out. So, okay, with that, we had a motion and a second. Is that correct?
I had just one more question, just for my own clarification. So the debt relief part, when we get the funds, is that coming before this December 1st deadline?
That's the anticipation, yes. If it doesn't, we're probably going to come back, staff may come back.
And say, we'll start at the next bill cycle?
We could consider that, or because the first interest charge doesn't occur until January, we may still be very good time-wise. You know, if we get it at the end of December, we may miss the first week, but we'll get that letter out. So it'll depend. Now, if the state were to come back and tell us, yeah, we're really slow, it's going to take until January or something much longer, we'd want to come back and talk to the board about that timing.
That's, you know, I would ask for that amendment in the motion, that the December 1st deadline can be contingent upon when we receive the funds. I don't know, is it in the letter?
No.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it, that's why I was asking. That's my only, because if we're we're going to start collecting funds before.
One suggestion.
That's my only fear.
But we can come back for it, right? If it doesn't happen, you guys can come back to the board for that. Right?
Before December 1st?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, the thing I'd like to emphasize is, as I'm thinking about the timeline, could we go back up one slide, Spencer?
And I'm sure staff is going to let us know exactly when those funds hit. This is not going to be a secret, so.
So someone wouldn't actually have an interest, by the way, the interest is pretty low, but let's just say we wouldn't want them to have any charge. Late interest would be a charge on the first bill in December. It wouldn't be until that first bill in January. So even if we got the money in December-ish, we've already got our programmers ready to take that file and upload it immediately into our billing system. And then we've got a template letter to start mailing out to customers. So they'd know right away what good news they've experienced.
So, sorry, I didn't understand that. What you're saying is that the bill cycle is of December 1st, but they won't get the bill till January? Talk to me like I'm a regular old customer who's literally about to get a $10,000 bill in my hand. I kind of just want to understand. That's my only concern. If you know, I'm asking for an amendment. If that's not the case, I just want to understand.
Sure.
We get the money December 15th. Will a customer have started paying into the forgiveness program, or what we?
They wouldn't have paid any interest by that point. Yeah, they wouldn't be assessed interest until January.
And I want to make sure that it's clear, customers have continued to receive bills from us, so they know exactly what their outstanding balance has been. So it's, you know, it's not like we haven't been saying the bill and they aren't aware of every single month of what that,
we have,
what that balance has been.
As of today, about 2 months to let them know that December 1st is the day that this is no longer going on, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. A customer is going to be anticipating, okay, December 1st, I need to start paying that, but I want to know realistically, are they going to be paying that? And if the funds don't come in by then, you know, I just want to understand a little better.
And really that thinking was what was behind us moving it from a November 1 to December 1. We want to make sure that we're not saying, hey, you're going to get all these charges, you better pay, and then later on go, oh, and you're getting a credit on your bill. What? We kind of want one great news message. You're getting this credit. By the way, that $10,000 will completely go away with that case. But, you know, this is what's going away. Now you've picked up a couple bills since then.
Sure.
We wanted to talk to you about we're reinstating our program. And
because it's only for that time period, okay. Yeah. Okay, those were my only questions. I just want to, are you willing to amend? Just contingent upon, if we do hear back and like, you know what, something happened, we're done 3 months out, that's my only wish, is that we amend just contingent upon any issues with the state money coming through.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I may, I think that's why staff has built in 2 extra months at the back end. So if, in fact, the funds don't come in on the 1st of November, which they're mandated to come in the 1st of November, if that's put off by a month, 2 months, or whatever, staff is billed in 2 months before this even kicks in. So before anybody gets penalized anything, we would make sure the funds came in and were applied to their account. Now, if Kevin gets word in December that these funds are going to be a month late, 2 months late, then I think we could bring it back and say, push those 2 months further out.
I would rather not clutter up
Yes.
the motion in today's action, but I will commit to supporting bringing the issue back to the board.
If it's late.
Yeah, if the money from the state is delayed and it would impact the way we anticipate this program will function, then I would like to see that come back to the board, but I don't want to put it in this motion.
And I think staff understands the intent of the board at this point, so.
I agree, and my motion's, I
Okay.
second them.
All right. Any further questions? Okay. Madam Secretary, we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Thank you. Director Roten,
Yes.
Director Risby,
Yes.
Director Gardner,
Yes.
Director Torres,
I'm gonna vote. I just want to know that we've been through this a few months, and I'm still confused. Whatever we can do to make it a lot more clear to customers would be appreciated by me, but yes.
President Dinstead.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our agenda today for 7F. This is a report from the board president under the ethics policy for a communication received through the district's general counsel regarding a self-report from Vice President Gracie Torres and actions taken by the Enforcement Division of the Fair Political Practices Commission. Contained in this staff report, actually contained in this report from me, is the information received from General Counsel in regard to the report.
Can we hold on just one moment? It looked like the Zoom service crashed. Let me just make sure everything's back online.
Okay.
That is correct. I do see parties on the Zoom still.
Parties?
Public, staff, members of the public.
They're still on.
They're still on.
Almost there. One more minute.
Oh, no worries.
I still see members of the public.
Do we not want them in there?
No, we do. Zoom had a technical glitch.
I thought that's what you were saying was the issue.
No. Zoom had a technical glitch.
They're trying to make sure and verify that people are
Got
still
it,
there.
got it. Oh my God.
We don't want to continue on.
Audio test. Steve, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I'm here. Everything glitched out for a second, then it came back.
Perfect. Thank you. I think looks like we are ready to go. Screen sharing is live as well as the audio and video feed.
Okay.
We're ready to go.
Thank you very much. Okay, continuing on, the information that I received from legal counsel in regard to the self-report was attached, as well as the documents that were provided by Director Torres in relationship to the letter that she received for the...
If we could please hold, we had one more glitch.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks like it's the Zoom service online. One more moment, sorry.
Do we just need to take a 5-minute break? I don't want to stress you out. Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break, okay?
Thank you. We'll recess for 5 minutes while we determine
Yeah,
the
let's figure out what the
connectivity.
problem is, because I don't want to keep start and stop and start and stop. Okay. Run to the restroom, then take the advantage. Okay. I'll be right back.
Spencer, mic check. Everything just came back on my end.
For members of the public, we will be returning at 12:45. We are currently, 10:45. We are currently experiencing some technical issues with Zoom. We want to make sure that everyone is able to connect. You may need to reconnect to Zoom if you lose connection with our meeting. Thank you for your patience.
Mic check. Spencer, can you hear me okay?
Steve, coming in loud and clear. Do we sound okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, I think we're ready to go once we're back from the break.
If any of the phone users are currently on, if you can give me a hello or hi, telephone number ending in 955 if you're there. Hello, hi. We'll see.
How about telephone caller ending in 177? Can we confirm that you can hear us and that we can hear you? They may have stepped away on a break, Steve.
They raised their hand. Perfect.
But
There's something.
I didn't see hands raised.
Just popped.
See it. Thank you, caller 177. I appreciate that.
And phone users, *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute if necessary.
Okay. We're at 10:45. We're ready to go.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I understand we had a little technical glitch. For some reason, Zoom was not cooperating with us today, so unfortunately, we do not own or are responsible for that platform working correctly, but I think staff has got that all cleared up and we are good to go. So thank you very much. Appreciate your hard work on getting that back up and running. Continuing forward with what I was saying previously, documentation has been provided by Director Torres in relationship to what she received from the Enforcement Division for their commencement of the investigation and the proposed settlement agreement, along with their findings, the stipulation, decision, and order, the statement of the respondent's rights, and the description of the violation along with the prescribed penalty. And at this time, I can go ahead and take public comments on this item.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a request to speak from Tom Hunt. Mr. Hunt, if you'd like to come forward. You will have 3 minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam President and members of the board. Thank you. I rise and here to speak in opposition to your proposed censure or reprimand of Board Member Torres. And based on these things, your policy, your ethics policy mentions board members 18 times, the one being looked at, board members 18 times. The violations, the mistakes made by candidate Torres were as a candidate, and do not, if you look at the key item under B4 for your determination, is if anything that's been done, including the FPC, and I'll talk about that in a minute, affects the operations of the district and the performance of their duties as members of the board. Ms. Torres made these mistakes with the FPCC as a candidate. They are the only ones that have authority to look at violations of campaigns. I would suggest that you look strongly at your policy where it talks about these things, because you do not, most elected bodies do not have any authority except for the appointed FPPC. You're opening a Pandora's box. You know I'm an elected official. And you're opening a Pandora's box here by refusing to consider the real facts here. She did report, she did get fined, and it was as a candidate. She did nothing that affects adversely this district, this board, this operation to the community that you serve. She has not acted unethically as a board member, and it's very interesting that this filing was just days after the FPCC, if you see in their letter to her, found these three things: that the filer has filed all pertinent statements, the extent of the gravity of the public harm in aggregate is not more than minimal, and the FPPC found no evidence of intent to conceal. That's by the candidate, not by your board member. I think that, as we all know, in my boardroom and in yours, maybe in yours even more, these are very serious and precarious times. I encourage you to be looking at serious and challenges that you have. And I end in the spirit of my good friends, your former colleagues, who 2 years ago, this same sort of charge came against Ms. Torres, and Bob and Don found it inconsequential and a waste of the time of this board to consider. In their spirit, and you know what kind of board members they were, please dismiss this. Please move forward with the work you have to do.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. I will now move to the Zoom requests. I see Jason Hunter. Mr. Hunter, you may begin.
Thank you. This is Jason Hunter. I live in Riverside. I'm a stakeholder in WMWD. I believe that elected officials must comply with FPPC rules, and there has to be consequences for not complying with FPPC rules. And I do find that Director Torres, this is now the second time that she's been found in violation, that while we're not quite at a trend, obviously this is not an isolated event over the course of a couple of years. If it is a trend, that is disturbing to me. However, I also think, as somebody who files ethic violations, complaints over at the city of Riverside, probably filed more than everybody else in the history of the city of Riverside, I do believe that the punishment has to fit the crime. I mean, that's kind of, I hope, common sense. We're electing y'all to be the directors, to exercise some common sense. And here's why I think the crime or the violation is de minimis. I'm reading through the FPPC's own comments, and it says the defect was cured immediately and self-reported. I think that's very important. The extent and gravity of public harm in aggregate is not more than minimal. The fine could have been $5,000, they've said. Instead, they fined Ms. Torres $200. And the FPPC found no evidence of intent to conceal. And to me, that's a really big one. In fact, I think it's sometimes the cover up more than the violation itself that impugns the integrity of folks and really causes distrust amongst the public. This 501 violation, while I don't find it intentional either. I see her campaign committee, after all, was called the Committee to Elect Gracie Torres Director, Western Municipal Water District Division 2 for 2022. So I could see how this form, I couldn't even really figure out what the intent of the form was. It seems kind of repetitious, superfluous almost. But anyway, I do think that you have to be careful. Sometimes repetitive errors can be as their sign of carelessness as egregious as intentional errors. But as you said, be careful of the precedent you set here, because remember, somebody, and I would expect consistent treatment if someone wants to look through the rest of the director's campaign filings and find something similar. And I just think that this probably deserves a slap on the hand, move on, and just hope for better in the future, find a new campaign.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Maybe treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll call for any other members of the public who may wish to speak. Seeing none, I close the public comment period.
Thank you. At this time, I will go ahead and defer to legal counsel as to my understanding of what our procedure is at this point is to determine whether or not this board finds that there in fact has been a violation or a consideration of our ethics policy and that it needs to be moved to a future agenda for discussion amongst the board as to what the gravity of that violation is and any punishment or any consequences of that should occur at that time. Is that correct, legal counsel?
Yes, Madam President, as mentioned in the staff report and memorandum, it is the board president who decides first, and what the board president can decide is on page 2 of my memo, section 3. Did the failure by Director Torres to timely file 501 affect the operations of the district and performance of her duties as a member of the board? Does the failure to timely file Form 501 warrant a reprimand, sanction, or censure? If your answer is no, then no formal action would be warranted. The president could have reported this matter out as part of your board member comments, but it is on this agenda today for discussion. If your decision is yes, then the president can direct staff to place on the matter on the agenda for discussion for action at a future board meeting. If there's to be anything other than a discussion, the district code provides that the board president has the authority and responsibility to determine whether to initiate any formal action. Any such proceeding would be implemented at a subsequent board meeting. Does that answer your questions?
Yes. Director Torres, did you have any comments that you'd like to make at this time?
Yes, I would. I guess I'll just go on. Thank you to Jeff, legal counsel, for the clarification. I wanted to start with addressing something we heard in public comment, and that would be in the differentiation between candidate Torres and board member Torres. Actually, Facebook has a funny way of doing things today. I saw a picture of me 3 years ago canvassing my area. And of course, candidate Gracie Torres didn't think that she'd be sitting here today defending those actions, that naivety. She didn't think that that's what would be happening at this point. She went, at that time, I didn't think we'd be a successful campaign, but we were, thankfully. As board member Torres, though, I have not done anything unethically. This has not affected my role as a board member, nor has impacted district operations, aside from having this conversation now. No district resources have been utilized or found to be utilized as a candidate. And after this complaint, I met the criteria of a quick resolve and addressed the matter immediately. This policy was made to address real and egregious FPPC issues, such as using district funds or resources to campaign, rather than a personal campaign oversight. When this was brought forward by my predecessor, it was done so because in San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District, there was an egregious FPPC violation. You can look it up. It's Resolution 1069, where they censured one of their board members for almost a $36,000 campaign charge from the FPPC. After clearing it, the board then, almost a year later, reinstated his status, and that would be Resolution 1090. Again, something you can look up. But it took him rectifying the issue for them to do so. This, in my opinion, is worth district time and energy, absolutely. However, this mistake, as mentioned actually in public comment, didn't even warrant full FPPC resources, nor did they find it fit to dole out their harshest punishment on my campaign, again, on candidate Torres. They spent less than a day on the issue and offered my campaign a streamlined resolution, then closed it out. They also did not take into account any previous issues. They didn't stack them together and say, well, this is your however many. They didn't do that. They looked at this singularly and said, how did candidate Torres behave? What was seen there? And as mentioned before, and I think in legal counsel, they found that I filed everything that was asked of me, and I did it as soon as I found out. Literally put my shoes on and went to the ROV. Respondent has not received a penalty from the commission for failing to timely file under this code section in the past 5 years. Again, they didn't compound any issues. The committee did not have more than the amount prescribed in regulation. It's listed for the jurisdiction and contributions received or expenditures made to her campaign, to the campaign. The extent and gravity of the public harm in this aggregate is not more than minimal. And they found no evidence of intent to conceal. So please take into account, was there something unethical? Did Board Member Torres do anything unethical? They, like I said, they didn't compound any issues. With that, I understand that in my newness, I had oversights, of course. But after 2.5 years, I'm learning lessons that I don't know if you all learned in your first 2 years. They could have been different lessons, but I'm learning them as I'm growing in this role. And so is candidate Torres learning. Section D of our policy reads, excuse me as I bring it up. As an expression, Section D1 reads, as an expression of the standards of conduct and decorum for board members expected by the district, this policy is intended to be self-enforcing, which is, I think, what we're doing today. It, therefore, becomes more effective when members are thoroughly familiar with it and embrace all of its provisions, and I want to say that I have become thoroughly familiar. I became thoroughly familiar when it was in its development stages and its adoptive stages, because it was important to me that we did this correctly. Because of that, I have embraced it. I very quickly called our legal counsel to self-report. And I called legal counsel as opposed to the president, not just because of any contentions, but I wanted to protect the integrity of what was going on. We were warned before that if we talked too much, or that might sully an investigation, and I did not want to put our board president in that precarious situation. I see now that maybe it would have been better just to go directly to the board president, but I did, in the intention, self-report what was happening. Less than a day later, I reported again that the FPPC was done with this. I'm also embracing our policy by sitting through this today, listening to, and probably going to be listening to my character put in question, and I'm going to sit here and do it for almost the third time. Again, as mentioned before, my colleagues, our late colleagues, looked at this, found that it was inconsequential. And so I'm embracing those things. But embracing this policy includes embracing subsection C, which is the procedure of reversing board action, and I will read it to you. If a censured or sanctioned member of the board takes the corrective actions necessary to fully resolve all violations, which I did immediately upon receiving the second letter that you will find in your board packet. The president shall place on the agenda at the next regularly scheduled board meeting a resolution to restore full privileges to that board member. The language is clear. If action is taken in either item 3 or 4A, the president shall place on the agenda a resolution to restore my full privileges. If you read item 4A, and I'm going to go to that section now. If you read item 4A, it says, the request for censure sanction shall be placed on the agenda. I think our board president made that clear. For consideration, this is if there is to be this board action, by the board on the next regularly scheduled board meeting. The president shall preside over the proceedings, and you can read the rest. So again, we would have to come back. So to be clear, if that is the intent today, we would have discussed this item at our previous board meeting. We will be discussing this item today. The board president would need to move it to a next board meeting for action. And then, because I have already resolved and done corrective action to resolve this issue, the board president will have to then place a restoration of privileges at the following board meeting. That would be 4 board meetings where we are discussing this issue. I cannot think of a bigger waste of our time, staff time, and ratepayer resources. Rather, because I acknowledge that this was an oversight, the board can choose to follow Section 3, and issue a reprimand today if they so choose. I will again read it for clarification. The reprimand is the least severe action for the violation of these rules and may be issued by majority vote of the board. Any motion made to issue the reprimand include a statement of reasons that the maker of the motion believes a reprimand should be issued. If the motion is seconded, then the board will vote on the motion, and so on and so forth. That can happen today. There is nothing that outlines in the procedure for us to move it into for us to move it into a next board meeting. With that, I do ask you to consider that there was a candidate, Torres, once whose family fought and worked very hard to get her here. Now, Board Member Torres has not acted unethically and has not failed to do her duties as a board member. I do also want to get clarification from legal counsel, as it's in the report today. The previous FPPC issue that had been brought up when we were, of course, a different board, but it was brought up and it was sat on this dais before we had a policy instated. My understanding is that this policy cannot legally be applied retroactively. And I want to get legal counsel's advice about discussing an item that has already been looked at and it was looked at before we had a policy in place.
To answer the question, the prior FPPC action can be considered by the board as part of what they do or not do today. That's all that this board is dealing with, is whether or not to impose a reprimand or a sanction under the Western's ethics code. So the impact and what the prior FPPC action was can be taken into account if the board wishes.
Thank you. My understanding is, Mr. Frey, that this is simply for the board's discussion at this point to move this forward to a subsequent board meeting for discussion over what action should, if any, be taken. Is that correct?
Right. So it was the direction of the board president to put this on for a discussion today. So a reprimand would take a motion. So since that's not on the agenda, if you wish to do a reprimand, then that would need to be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Or anything else you want to consider doing.
Okay. Comments from other members of the board? Director Gardner.
Thank you, Madam President. It's unfortunate that we're in this situation. I don't think anybody intended that we would be here. I don't believe that Director Torres intended to hide anything or had any nefarious purpose in mind in not filing the form as it's required. I am, though, troubled by the fact that this is a second failure to abide by FPPC regulations. It seems to me that, and if I recall correctly, I wasn't here, but I've watched the tape of the discussion by this board of the old FPPC issue, and you I think rightfully and properly said, yeah, it happened, it was a mistake, I fixed it, and it will never ever happen again. Had that been me, I would have gone out and found, I would have gotten the FPPC regulations, I would have studied them really hard to make sure I didn't do it again, any violation of FPPC regulations. I think it's incumbent on us as elected officials to be as fully compliant with all the applicable laws and regulations, to particularly things like the FPPC regulations and the Campaign Reform Act, which are intended to make campaigning and office holding as transparent as absolutely possible to the public. As the General Counsel has pointed out, I don't believe that we could take an action other than moving this forward for discussion at a future meeting. I think the choices before the board today are don't do anything, just say we're done, or move it forward to a future meeting for discussion.
At the next meeting, there would need to be something on the agenda as to what you would consider doing. So
Okay.
it would be on there as a potential motion for reprimand or a potential hearing on a censure. So it's not just to discuss. There needs to be something on the next agenda as to what is or is not being considered.
Okay.
Okay. So I will stop there. I do think we need to discuss this more. I agree in general that this is not a really egregious violation, nor was the first one. It's not that difficult to miss some of the requirements of those regulations, but the resources are provided to all of us so that we hopefully don't. So I'll stop there, see what other board members feel, but my opinion is that we should bring this back at a future meeting and discuss what potential action the board may wish to take.
Okay, thank you. Other comments?
So for me is, even if I make a motion for reprimand, it has to be today for the next meeting.
Yeah, let me be clear. At this meeting today, the board president listed it as a discussion only. So there's nothing on the agenda for the Brown Act that would say you were going to consider a reprimand or you were going to consider a censure. So for the next meeting, though, there needs to be, for Brown Act purposes, something on there the board will consider a motion of reprimand, or the board will consider a hearing on a censure. Something, one of those two, or, I mean, you can do both, I suppose, but there needs to be something on the next agenda that the board president would say, here's my motion, it's on the agenda, it's discussed at that point and action is taken or not.
Okay.
Just,
I have a question.
could the agenda item be correctly drafted broadly that the board would consider taking the actions provided, taking any of the actions provided for, and allow for a more thorough discussion at that point of what the appropriate action, if any, might be?
No. What the ethics code says is that after this general discussion, you can talk about the details of the violation, of what you might want to do in terms of a response. You can do that full-fledged conversation today. But for the next meeting, there needs to be something on there that talks about a motion to issue a reprimand that includes a statement of the reasons the maker of the motion believes reprimand is issued, or if it's going to be a formal censure, then the written request must set forth the allegations of violations, and upon which the proposed censure is based, the request shall be placed on the agenda for consideration by the board next regularly scheduled meeting. The rules of evidence shall not apply, but the subject board members shall be allowed to respond to the allegations. A decision with respect thereto is based on substantial evidence, requires a majority vote. So I'm just saying that you could have both tracks in the next meeting if you wanted, but one of those tracks needs to be on there at least,
Okay,
if
yeah,
you want to do something.
And if the motion or if the agenda item says just one track, then the board's action could not be a different track.
Correct, and that's why this is set up as the board president decides.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go, Director Roughton.
So is a next meeting mandatory, or is this anything that if we came to consensus today that this is enough and we're finished with this? Can we end this today, or do we have to do another meeting?
No, you don't have to do another meeting.
Okay.
But it's in the hands of the board president as to whether this discussion and things that are discussed is enough, or if you need a next meeting to do one of those tracks.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make a comment here, and I will go ahead and move this forward. Hearing everybody and having an opportunity to speak and where we need to go with this.
Can I actually make a comment then before?
Yes.
Thanks. So I think with the staff report today, what we've heard from Director Torres, what we've heard from the public, In my opinion, even this item itself being very public, very transparent, is enough to show the significance of what the violation was. The violation was taken care of immediately. Yes, you know, in a perfect world, it would have been done in a more timely fashion, but we all know that life isn't always perfect. So my opinion would be to end this today. It's been talked about. It's been brought out publicly. People can watch the streaming and watch it afterwards, and it sends a clear message that this wasn't acceptable, but it happened, and it's been addressed. So that's just my opinion, and I realize I'm new and I wasn't here when the other violation happened. So that would be from my perspective.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of comments as to where I believe that we should go with this, since it's been placed in this role. And I appreciate the comments that were received today. The intent of this policy was certainly for the board members to be held accountable for their behavior as they are placed here. This is a voluntary position that people take it upon themselves to run for this position and hold this office. The only reason that you have to file that paperwork is because you hold that elected status and choose to put yourself voluntarily in that position. I respectfully disagree with the statement that was raised prior to stating that a candidate and a board member elected are two separate positions. It has been determined in my experience in a prior legal action that was taken on another council member that I'm very familiar with, that the comment that they made when they acted in the fashion that they did was that they removed their council hat in order to behave as a private citizen, which the courts found was not an accurate statement. You cannot remove your status simply because you decide to do that verbally. I believe that it is a obligation of this board to be in compliance. We just completed ethics training altogether to understand what the importance is of having ethics, to be accountable for our actions, to have integrity while we do those things, to be a part of that. And like I said, the only reason that this is in accordance with anything is because we voluntarily chose to run for office, and that's why we are held to a standard. I believe that the first violation that was brought forward with Ms. Torres in her initial campaign run was an opportunity for a learning experience for her to be able to be familiar with the rules and to be in compliance with that. And I believe the intent of the board, while I sat on that board and made that decision with the rest of the board, along with the president at the time, Bob Stockton, was to say, yes, it was brought to her attention, we discussed it, we didn't believe it was anything other than a failure to know what the rules were, and to be in compliance with the rules, in which case she immediately complied with that. She went ahead and didn't comply. She accepted that responsibility. I believe she's accepted the responsibility at this time, and I'm a little taken back that she didn't dive further into the rules, perhaps, and maybe that's now some correction action that she needs to take, but that she has, oh, you guys are not moving out there enough. Sorry, the lights just shut off in our boardroom because it's automatic censored, and obviously we don't have enough movement in the boardroom. But it is certainly, I believe, Director Torres has accepted responsibility with her actions in here, with the letters that have been provided, with the streamlined settlement, the stipulation. She waived her rights to due process with the FPPC, and she has admitted and accepted the responsibility for the action. It would be my suggestion, and I believe firmly in our policy, because I think we vetted it very closely, very clearly, that it was in our intention to be progressive in our discipline. And while That is what I believe the intent of what we voted on previously was for. So it would be my intention to move forward with a formal reprimand, to go on the record, to have a discussion at the next board meeting, to see if my colleagues are in concurrence with that, and to put that out there to say, look, it is really incumbent upon us as elected officials to hold a very high standard of professionalism and personal integrity, and that we take our ethics policy very seriously and how we perform and engage, whether it be to enact on governance or be in compliance with the Political Reform Act, which is what it was intended to do. So that would be my intention, folks, is to move this forward to a future agenda for a reprimand to be addressed, and that Director Torres be given the language and verbiage of that, and it be documented in our board meeting for under our intent of progressive discipline for a second occurrence of the FPPC. I think that is reasonable. I don't believe that Ms. Torres would disagree with me. I believe that she has accepted responsibility for this action with everything that's been contained in the packet and all of the information that she has under our request complied with and provided to us for transparency's sake, for the public to be aware of, because we are not in the game of not being transparent here, folks. That is not the intention of this board, and we want to be held accountable for our actions. So that would be my comment, and that would be my direction to move forward. Legal counsel, did you need a motion on that, or is that enough direction as far as what your understanding is, the intent of our policy from the board president, or is that consensus from the board as a motion and a vote?
No, once again, because this item was only listed as a discussion today, the only action that can be taken or not is by the board president. Okay. The rest of the board can certainly express their opinions as to moving forward now. I think they have, or they can talk about it further. But at the end of the day, if it is your decision, Madam President, to include on the next agenda a reprimand motion, then you would need to draft that particular motion to include a statement of the reasons therefore, and then bring that forward to the next meeting along the same lines of the staff report you did today.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so that will be my intention for the next board meeting.
Can I say, so I agree that, you know, there was a violation, and I do see that Director Torres tried to fix it, and as we were not part of the last board, I went and saw the meeting, and she is willing to forgive it. So I really think that we should, you know, knowing right now, we should not move forward, we should dismiss it, but, you know, but we cannot make a motion, right, to dismiss it?
Right, I mean,
That's
it's the board presidents who has the authority to decide or not, but it's certainly the rest of the board can give her direction today as to how they feel about it.
Okay. So that is going to be my intention, is to move it forward to the next, to have that as a reprimand. So thank you, my colleagues, for your comments. I appreciate that. Thank you to Director Torres for her statement and the information that she has provided. And we'll go ahead and move forward on our agenda. Moving on to reports. Staff reports. First up, General Counsel, on your report, sir.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. A number of bills have been signed by the governor recently that will have impact on the district. This one I want to mention today is SB 323, which establishes a 120-day statute of limitations for one to challenge new or increased water and sewer rates. Under Prop 218, currently there really is no statute of limitations that applies particularly. Usually it's a year back from when a rate was imposed, or 3 years back in terms of the amount that somebody could claim to collect if they win on a Prop 218 case. This bill goes into effect January 1, but as of January 1, then if the board takes action to adopt water or sewer rates, then somebody would have 120 days after that to challenge the rate. This is not really out of the ordinary. If you look at other types of fees and charges in the water code or the government code, they also have 120-day statute of limitations. So I think this is a move forward where the board can decide and see if there's any challenge or any issues with their rates and charges within a finite period of time. But again, this goes into effect the first of the year. That's all I have.
Thank you, legal counsel. If you could provide that to the board in writing as to what those changes have been, that would be great, so we could have that and keep it in mind moving forward. General managers and staff reports. Mr. Miller.
Yeah, I have a few different things to report. Per my requirement to report on coronavirus, as you heard from Kevin about our past due balances, it continues to rise. We're up at about $916,000, so it continues to escalate. Hopefully we see a big swing in that as the board took an action today to reinstitute collection, and we're certainly very happy to see that the state has processed very quickly the arrearage program to help out some of our struggling customers. Internally, we have had 5 additional coronavirus cases in September, and so that's a little troubling. And we continue to push really hard with our staff members to be very careful when they're outside of the organization. None of those cases came from inside the organization. They were all acquired either on vacation or on their own time. So we're watching that and being very careful internally. Second item, good news, really good news. The Defense Community Infrastructure Pilot Program. So this is a Department of Defense grant program. They announced 13 grants were awarded across the country worth $160 million. Western was successful in getting $4.3 million in that grant program. That money will go to the interconnection over at MARB with Eastern. So there's infrastructure required for that, and also we have to buy into Eastern system to pay for capacity, because we're going to get supply out of their system. We have to, just like a connection fee that any developer would have to pay into our system, we pay basically a connection fee. So that money goes to the development, that interconnection. That's great news for Western, our Western commercial customers, and the base as a customer. So really good to hear that was released recently, and our staff did a great job to find that and pursue it. It took us 2 years, 2 different tries to win in that category. And you do have on the dais some information about that. I met with the new base commander last week, Colonel Haynes, very nice gentleman, was really interested in the water service that Western provides. We talked all about our service, our history, the infrastructure connection with Eastern, and PFAS issues in the sewer system. So that meeting went very well. Another good thing to report, the Sterling Pump Station. We reported construction delays in the past. We've had significant construction delays, and we were really struggling with a vibration issue in the pumps. That has been fixed. The pump station is actually in the 7-day commissioning program right now, which is kind of the final stage where they say, turn it on, and it has to operate all on its own for 7 days. So that's the phase that we're in. I hear that it may be extended by 2 days because we had a couple of minor glitches, but that is really good news. So we're very close to putting that into full operation. Final item is I wanted to report out on the Murrieta MSR. We went to LAFCO meeting 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. 23rd, thank you. 23rd, LAFCO received and filed the MSR. They made their normal determinations. In their determinations, they said that all 3 water agencies were perfectly capable of serving that service area. They made no recommendations as any preferred provider. So no changes as to Western providing the services for the Murrieta service area. We will report back in 6 months as to the progress that we're making. As you know, that we've approved an MOU to work with Rancho to help provide better service to our customers and help us with some development issues where we can share in some of their investments they've made in their own system. So that is really good news that process is concluding. We did receive a letter from the city last night saying they're anxious to work with any one of the 3 water agencies to help out their community. So all 3 water agencies received that letter. So with that, that's all I have. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. That's my report out. But we do have one other report out. This is something that was brought up by the board in the process. Sorry, Candy.
Yes.
Didn't recognize you out there that you were going to, but it says it right in front of me that you are.
No.
Tell us about the walking challenge.
No problem. Thank you very much. Good morning, President Dinstead, board
Morning.
members, staff, and public who's still here, and those who are still Zooming with us. I'll take just a couple of minutes, but I don't have just one thing. I have 4 things.
Oh, fantastic.
October's a very busy month for
Does
us.
any of it involve a puppy?
No.
Okay.
Or
right.
a pumpkin
Super
patch. Super cute, but no, no puppies. My information is not as cute as the video and the puppies and the kids, but equally as important. October is a very busy month for us, all centered around employee health, so that's awesome. First, we have our Fall into Fitness walking challenge, so I encourage everybody to participate. Our wellness committee thought it was apropos as we head into the fall season that we fall into fitness, we get involved in some form of activity that has tremendous benefits for not only our heart health, but our entire body and our wellness. So we have a challenge going on that we started on October 1st, goes all the way through the month, ending on October 31st. Employees have a mechanism to chart their course for their walking steps and a conversion chart. If walking's not your thing, there's plenty of other ways you can chart your activities, and we provided that chart. So if you're a bicyclist, like our general manager, you can convert your biking into steps and report that out. November 1st, we'll accept everybody's chart. You'll get points for participating, and the person who has the most points gets an extra special prize. I'm not sure what that is yet, but we'll find something. So the Fall into Fitness campaign, we encourage everybody to participate. Second up on our
Hold on.
list.
Just a
Yes.
second.
I will take questions.
Miss Judd, just a moment. I'm going to take this opportunity right now to throw down a challenge.
Ooh.
All right.
The challenge is going to be for my colleagues on this board to join in against each other, because we don't want to compete against the employees. And we certainly aren't going to have any prizes other than bragging rights. Okay. I will throw that challenge down to my colleagues to join with that. If you could provide us with your conversions and your charts and do that, I encourage my colleagues to join in this challenge to show our commitment and our dedication to health for yourselves, for your families, and for this agency. And I think it's really important that we do that and we jump on board. So
I just
throw
wanna
the challenge.
State for the record, it's not fair. Director Risby is the busiest person I've ever met.
I'm gonna challenge that. And
I
I'm gonna
am
see what
taking
her
it
steps
on.
are.
I'm gonna go for the bragging
Want to
rights.
say I'm not worthy of challenging Director Risby on something like that, but I'm up to it and I accept the challenge.
Well, Director Risby, I'm going to be going for a 12-mile run on Saturday. So anytime you'd like to join me.
Oh my God.
Never mind.
Okay.
Okay?
This is already
Challenge
tough.
entered.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you
Let's
for
do it.
joining us, and we welcome your participation and to your good health, all of you. The second item I wanted to mention, it was mentioned earlier by Sarah, so thank you, Sarah. Wellness Wednesday is back, so we're super excited about Wellness Wednesday. That is an initiative from our Wellness Committee, and the first Wednesday of every month, we run out and we get the seasonal fruits and some healthy snacks. And my wonderful staff does the shopping, so thank you, Bianca and Michelle, for going out and getting those items. And they divvy it up and we deliver it out to all of our departments, so everybody has the opportunity to partake in starting their day off with a healthy snack or fruit. So that actually happened today. So I've already heard from several people that they are thankful for that healthy option. The third item is our 2022 open enrollment benefits is happening right now. So we have launched the open enrollment period, which goes from October what was Monday, the 4th? Yep. All the way through the 22nd of this month. And we also have a virtual health fair happening right now. Really cool. I hope everybody launches that and looks at the health fair. It's chock full of information. We do have another session this afternoon at 2 o'clock for those that couldn't join us at 7:30 this morning to get all your answers to the open enrollments process, as well as any questions that employees might have about the virtual health fair. So please take an opportunity to look at that. Super easy. You just click on the join now. You don't have to log in. No special login or password. I've actually gone and done it, and it's very cool. So I encourage you all to take a look. Family members as well. And last but not least, hopefully everybody got their pin.
Yeah.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we gave out pins to all of our employees, along with the Help Us Kiss Breast Cancer Away with a couple of Hershey's Kisses. So I know Hershey's Kisses are not the most healthy, but they're super yummy. We did provide employees with information on additional resources for awareness, and optional if somebody wanted to donate to the National Cancer Foundation, we gave that information as well. So super busy. I want to thank the Wellness Committee for coming up with these ideas and supporting our health of all of our employees. As Sarah mentioned, these initiatives and programs are designed to keep our employees healthy, happy, and being here 100% for our customers. So with that, I thank you. Good luck on the challenge. I can't wait to hear what everybody does. And we'll be bringing back, we'll let you know who the winner is from our challenge for the month of October.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's not an app? It's not an app? Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
I'm like, may I have to do math on top of all of this?
Okay. Thank you for that. Just, I wanted to make a comment as far as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This is something that's been very near and dear to this agency. Our recently retired board secretary, Jean Perry, was a breast cancer survivor. And so I know that this is something that has touched everybody in some fashion. You either have had a family member that has been affected by this, you have had a friend affected by this, you've had a colleague affected by this. This affects mothers, sisters, wives, daughters. This affects everybody. And the statement I will make, folks, is self-exams save lives. So please encourage your loved ones to participate in self-exams, listen to your healthcare providers for your annual mammograms and when you're supposed to be doing this. Because it is such a important, impactful thing that can happen. So, and with a female majority board, I think this is very important and relevant for us to be able to do that. So I hope you share that message from the board to the rest of our Western family and all of their families to take precautions during this time of awareness. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, and thank you for the pink ribbon. I will wear that proudly, and I will happily eat the kisses. So,
Me too. I'm looking.
okay, and hopefully they're dark chocolate, right? Because that's better. So, anyway, just
I passed mine along.
just
Hopefully it is good for your heart, Mike. I don't mean to hurt.
so.
Madam President,
Yes.
if I might, just a couple of real quick comments, follow up on the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. First, while it is primarily a disease affecting women, it does
It
occasionally
does.
affect
Yes, it
men.
does.
We are not exempt. And so, keep that in mind if you notice weird changes about yourself, and you're a guy. And the other is the importance of early detection. My wife is a 21-year breast cancer survivor now, because it was found early, and she got proper treatment quickly, and essentially has no follow-on issues. So it does make a great deal of difference. You know, do the things you're supposed to do, get your mammograms, and if you find something unusual, talk to your doctor.
Thank you, Director Gardner, and we certainly congratulate her for being a survivor. That's
Yes. Congratulations to you too.
very, very important. So thank you for stressing that point. Okay, is that the end of staff general manager reports?
That is complete.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to director's reports and request, starting off with SAPA Commissioner, please.
Thank you. SAPA actually had 2 meetings since our last meeting, my last report. They are moving forward with building landscaping improvements. The landscape at the SAPA building was designed and installed back when the building was built in the 1990s. The irrigation system is old and worn out. They also are doing some building lobby security improvements. Right now, it's an automatic door, which, if open, anyone can, and unfortunately frequently does, wander in, and there's nothing to keep them from wandering into the rest of the building. So those updates will be made. That was from the September 21st meeting. Yesterday, the SAPA Commission, as well as 2 of the committees, met. The commission, the primary action, it's an information report, but there is $27 million in Proposition 1 Round 2 funding that is going to be available in the SAPA area. And they are in the process of putting together the application process for those dollars. So that will be a big deal for the member agencies. They're trying to get a little more outreach to non-governmental organizations and tribal organizations, partly as direction from the state and partly because some of the tribal organizations are really significantly disadvantaged communities. Some are not so much, but some are really quite poor. So it will be an interesting process, and there's an opportunity for our region to get an additional $27 million in outside funding. Of the 2 committees, PA 23 committee is the SARCUP committee. The only action that may be worth reporting is I got drafted as chair to replace Director Brent Denstedt, who was the prior chair. The PA 24 committee, which is the brine line, authorized the executive director to enter into a lease agreement with Eastern Municipal Water District to lease 500,000 gallons per day of brine line treatment and capacity. That's very important to them, so it was a good thing for them to do. And that pretty much concludes SAPA. Would you like me to do Chino Basin same time or come back? Okay. At the, what was this? September 23rd meeting, Chino Basin Water Master did approve some local storage agreements amongst the members. They approved a budget amendment to fund more of the work on the court-ordered safe yield recalculation from the Chino Basin. There continues to be some dispute over how much should be spent and who should pay those dollars, but they are making progress and putting many of those issues behind them, which is favorable. This Friday, the 8th, there is a hearing a court hearing to determine who should pay legal fees It's essentially a dispute between the appropriative pool, which is the water providers, and the agricultural pool. And they've been unable to reach agreement, so now it falls in the court's lap, and we'll see how quickly the court can rule. I think there's a possibility that the judge may rule on Friday. So that does not affect Western directly, but it does affect the operation and the congeniality of the members of the Water Master. And that's it.
Thank you. Okay, so cross my list off here. Okay, so for the Metropolitan update, a lot of stuff has happened over the last couple of weeks. I had an opportunity to attend a special board meeting that was done for a closed session item that had a vote that took place in open session to pay out the $36 million on the judgment for the litigation between San Diego Water Authority and Metropolitan Water District. So that board has taken the action so that that interest and things wouldn't continue to tick forward on that amount of money. So I'm sure that interest on $36 million is pretty significant. So they think the purpose was to simply stop the clock on that. I also attended a retreat that was hosted and suggested by the chairwoman, Gloria Gray. That was interesting to finally meet all of those folks face to face and have an opportunity to shake their hands, meet them, and not see them on Zoom and decide that people were shorter, taller, their hair wasn't actually that color, you know, those types of things. So that was rather entertaining. But the retreat was really designed to address some challenges that Met has had over the last 18 months, I think, on the Zoom platform, communication skills, to talk about shared understandings, to get consensus from the board, to talk about priorities, to talk about the Shaw report, the Shaw Law Group report for diversity, for equity, for inclusion, and talk about next steps. And so one of the things that was very entertaining was a segment that was done, and it was over discussing communication styles and talking about shared experiences and learning how to communicate with people with different communication styles, and talking about perceptions and what your blind spots are because of your life experiences. And we were going around the room, and it was very entertaining because during that discussion with perceptions, I think that the entire board, because I had asked everybody to raise their hands when I asked a question, and I think that they were all shocked to find out that I was not a purely Caucasian woman. They had all made an assumption. And so I think that was a tremendous amount of shock for that board to realize that that is my background and where I came from, and a lot of questions jumped off from that point. So sometimes our perceptions have a tendency to send us down a wrong path and make assumptions that get us in trouble. So that was a very interesting conversation that took place. I think that there was a tremendous amount.
May I ask what that is?
I'm sorry?
You said you shocked them. I'm shocked too. So what is your nationality, race? If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, no, I have no problem with that. And actually, I showed a picture of my family and my mother so that people would actually know. And yes, they are, in fact, my biological family. So my grandmother actually originated from outside of Cartagena, Colombia, and migrated to this country, so I am second generation on the Colombian side from South America. My grandfather originated from a village outside of Olongapu in the Philippines, joined the Navy to fight for our country in World War II, and migrated the entire family to become United States citizens. So I am second generation on both sides of my maternal family. So I consider myself, and I explain that to the Met board, I actually consider myself a Heinz 57. I am a little bit of everything. So,
What a beautiful family.
so and actually had an opportunity there was a gentleman who facilitated this conversation over misperceptions who, he was a black gentleman, and I pointed out to the fact that my mother actually was darker than he was. So he was very shocked. Everybody in the room was shocked, and I was happy to share a photograph of my mother and my family. So, so it just goes to show you sometimes your assumptions are not entirely correct. So with that, I would also too, and recognize the fact that with my heritage and my proud heritage that I come from, it is Hispanic Heritage Month, and that was documented and recognized by the chairwoman for the board for Metropolitan Water District. And my mother, who was affectionately referred to as Vieja, and my grandmother was affectionately referred to as Viejita. So in honor of them and for this board, I would like to recognize Hispanic Heritage Month. So that was very interesting training. I appreciate all of the discussion that took place to build relationships, to get to know individuals. In your packet of information from Metropolitan, we had listed out on a bunch of whiteboards all of the priorities and things that were really important that we want to talk about and focus on and start to dive into. That packet has been provided to you. So I would encourage you that as you read through this, if you could provide comments back either to myself or to the general manager in terms of what you feel are appropriate for these priorities, that would be okay.
President Dinsta, I apologize for interrupting, but I want to let you know that I didn't realize you wanted it for the whole board. I just provided it for you. So I will do that. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought that my little stack here was for everybody's stack. So I'm sorry, I misspoke. That's why you were looking at me like that, like, oh, sorry, I didn't give that to everybody. Okay, this will be provided to you. So sorry, I didn't realize that. So I wanted everybody to take a look at this and see what it is, because I think it's really important that we understand what Metropolitan's focuses are as a member agency. So moving on with that, I believe I have hit all the high points as far as Metropolitan's update is concerned. Did I miss anything, Mr. Miller?
I think you got it all.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Except
okay.
there's a meeting next week.
Yes, the meeting of the Inland Caucus is tomorrow, and the board...
Committee and boards next week.
Committees and boards next week. So I will have a more detailed report on all of those activities. Okay, moving right along. Cheetah Basin.
Tomorrow. That's all you got.
Is this Alter Authority?
This.
Oh,
This
my
Alter
bad.
Authority, yes.
Yeah, we already heard about
Yes. So sorry, I misread the acronyms. Yes, CDA.
Same as before.
Okay. Hasn't changed the location or time of the meeting. Okay. RCRA representative.
It hasn't, right? It is on Zoom. I think I noticed. I wanted to make sure.
I think you're...
We had two meetings. One was just a general committee meeting, and then there was a recycled, almost like a seminar, which you guys have the package for. Is it on our package? Yeah. Yes, it is right here. Yes, I see it. So it was a joint meeting, board of directors and the executive committee of RCRA. We had a meeting day before yesterday. So in the regular meeting, we authorized a purchase of $70,000 for Vestios monitoring services for just monitoring how the wastewater treated water is discharged into the Santana River Canal. That was approved, and then there was a authorization of purchase order in the amount of $200,000 for Vestec tertiary filter cassettes for the treatment plant, and then there was an item for bidding for RCRA odor mitigation project. that was approved as well. And then finally, there was there has been a legal with a legal counsel. There has been a litigation. Finally, it got resolved, and it was I think it was $75,000, which we had offered $50,000. They did not, and the board had approved for a $75,000 to mitigate, and they approved it. And so finally, this case is resolved, and it will no longer be. Since I've been on the board, every meeting we've been dealing with it. So we are happy to announce that that's been taken care of.
Okay.
And on the executive committee and the special joint committee, it was very interesting. I'm sure Laura joined us. We had no idea what was going on, so we listened to a lot of all the agencies for RCRA, Corona, Norco, JCSD, Home Garden Sanitary District, and us. Western, we provided update on how the futures of recycled water is looking for us, what are our projects, and where are we going from that. That was a great update. It's in the part of your packages. And also that IUA, the Inland Empire Utilities Agency. It took me a while to understand what is IUA.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So they are interested. They probably proposed this partnership opportunity between IAUA and Western Municipal to purchase the 2,500 acre feet per year of recycled water treated at the RCRA plant. And we are interested in talking, and there's a talk going on. So I will keep you guys updated on that as well.
Okay.
All right. That's
Thank
it.
you.
And Sarah meets next week.
Great, thank you. Okay, WRCOG. WRCOG, again, was a very long meeting. There was a big discussion that took place that really took up a lot of time from TUMF, which doesn't involve our water agency, and but I have to sit there while they're going through that agenda, so thank God we're not part of TUMF. And the finance director is going, yes, thank goodness. We did do a presentation, and I say we as in the agencies and the general manager took part and did a presentation jointly with Eastern Municipal Water District to talk about the drought and how that's affecting our region right now in cooperation with all of our cities, and try to provide sound bites to them so that they could join with us in messaging, and we want to be supportive of them in their efforts and what they're doing to partner with us as far as letting their districts and regions and cities know about what's going on and the people who reside in them. So thank you, Mr. Miller, for your participation. I think we got a lot of interesting questions and a lot of engagement, and hopefully people will continue to reach out with us and get some continuing information as we move forward and pray for rain. So, okay. Hey, we're gonna pray for rain, and if we have to, we'll bring somebody in here to do a rain dance if necessary, okay? So I'm just saying. So we also went into a very lengthy closed session, and there was no reportable action from the closed session in regard to several litigation cases involving PACE and the Renovate America program. So we will, whenever those resolve, I'll have a very lengthy discussion once that can be actually discussed. Okay, let's move on to director's comments. I'm going to go down the row here, please, and start with my far left to Director Rizvi. Okay. Any director's comments today?
Yes. Last week, we attended the Special District Leadership Academy Conference up in Tahoe, which was excellent. There was a lot of information. So it was 2 days, 2.5 days, and there was such great information. So we had a session about building a foundation for good governance, where we learned all about the issues we are going through of how as leaders, as elected officials, we are going to lead the agency, which way we are going to take the mission of our agency and how to move it forward. That was a very good session. And then the next session was fulfilling your district's mission, charting the course, and how as as a board member, as a body, we all are taking this mission and implementing it not only with our constituents but with the regional on the regional level as well. So that was very interesting. Then they were defining board and staff roles. That's something that there was a lot of things that we knew, but learning it, I think relearning it was very good, a refresher for us. Just going through, last 6 months, I was like, oh, that's why we do some things like that. Why everything is defined as such, as how do we report to general manager, what we can do to, it was very, very interesting. And my favorite one was what do board members know about the district finances? That was amazing. We learned to read the budget, right? It was like, wow, there were so many questions when everybody in the class was asking that, sometimes you think and you don't, you understand. So that was my favorite session of the whole, training. So, and then the same thing, as you said, to meet new people, this was our first time. I'm like, oh, you're in the water district. So it was very exciting to travel and to be a part of this training. So I'm really glad I was able to participate.
Great. Thank you. Does that conclude your report?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Thank you. Director Routon.
I just wanted to mention, and this kind of relates to the appreciation that we're showing for Water Professionals Appreciation Week. I had my full day orientation here, and I was so impressed and humbled by how much time was spent not just preparing and getting staff all together and having them prepare their presentations, but this huge notebook, and just the information was, there was a lot of information, but all good. And it made me feel really, I guess for lack of a better adjective, really special in knowing that that had been prepared for me as a new board member. And I know that you do that, I'm sure, on a regular basis, but when you have someone come in on the middle like that, it's a little different. So had no idea that it was going to be as in-depth as it was, and it was very much appreciated. And I'm just continuing to learn new things all the time. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate those comments. Director Gardner.
Thank you. Just follow on Director Routon's comments on the board orientation. Due to COVID, when I was first elected, I did not get to go tour the operations center. So I tagged along on that one. It is an impressive facility. The staff there are, as you would expect for this organization, exceptionally knowledgeable and very hardworking, and really creative. And to my surprise, HR has got a little office there. So if there are HR issues that need to be dealt with, they can go to the employee instead of making the employee come to them, which I think is a real plus. So I was glad to have an opportunity to get to see that facility, meet some people I had not yet met, and learn a little more about what we do.
Okay. Thank you very much for those comments. Director Torres.
Yes.
Your mic's not on.
And I do it on Zoom too, like it's a curse. I want to just start by thanking the board today, and
Director Denstead for her comments today. I know it's something for a future item, but I do want to thank you all for showing me compassion and grace. Also, Director Denstead, I have sat here next to you for almost 3 years, and I guess I made the wrong assumption too. Thank you so much for sharing your family's history. It's beautiful to know that. With that, I am formally reporting on CSDA. Director Risby's like, do we have to write a report? I said, I really hope that's not, I have a doctorate I have to focus on first. But so yeah, we had a CSDA meeting, our conference yesterday, last week. And, it was actually very, very informative, but my biggest take out of that conference was how absolutely blessed we are as board members here at Western Municipal Water District. We talked to so many board members who really, really needed the guidance and the leadership training from everything as small as Robert's rules to creating a budget. Some don't have any staff. And so we're incredibly blessed. We're blessed to be here. Like I said, we learned a lot, but that was my biggest takeaway is how lucky we are to serve on this board in particular. With that, I'm going to go straight into happy new water year. That started October 1st, and with that, as everyone knows, my heart is in stormwater, so that's what I'm constantly looking at. And with Water Professionals Week, again, I thank you for all that you do to continue to provide water, to keep our waterways clean, for all of that, and for making that message a priority this year. And just tying it back to CSDA, we're very lucky to have you as staff, and knowing that you're doing everything you possibly can every single day to provide water, collect fees, and continue to provide water in that circle, and we appreciate you. I've always appreciated you, but this conference really did open my eyes to how absolutely blessed we are. And then lastly, today is Clean Air Day. I know we are a water district, but they are not mutually exclusive. Our air quality affects our water quality, our surface water qualities, and I hope that our board president would allow me to request adjourning our meeting in celebration of Clean Air Day. Okay, thank you for that report. It's been a busy couple of weeks. So I think I already mentioned that ethics training was a big thing for us. We attended that in person, so that was a really nice opportunity to have that engagement in person for ethics training. It's really important, and that's in compliance with the state mandates that we participate in that training every 2 years. I also attended the California Special Districts Association Leadership Academy as a returning attendee. I had previously, years ago, attended that academy. It was very interesting, very engaging. It was nice to talk with several individuals, talk about challenges as board members to kind of get a refresh and get a refocus, and it was quite humbling to me to be approached by one of the trainers of that to come and ask to be a trainer of that academy. So I will be having discussions with my role, if at all possible. So it was quite a humbling experience to have that offered and asked of me. So I wanted to thank CSDA for a wonderful conference, for giving us some topic of information. I think everybody was really excited to be together in the same room and not be on Zoom getting this kind of training. It's such a different dynamic of engagement when you are not over Zoom, when people actually have to look at you in the face to say what they're going to say, rather than the discord that has been happening.
And it really is something that was prevalent with all of the agencies that were at CSD, and a common concern that was vetted out there. So just interesting to look at and talk about the dynamics. I also wanted to report, I don't know if this was a report that came out to the rest of the board staff or whatnot, but I did receive notification from Aqua Region 9. The election has concluded, and I am placed back on Region 9's board for the next cycle, the 22-23 cycle. So
Congratulations.
it will be my honor to serve as our representative and represent Region 9 and look at state issues as we move forward, and hopefully have more of an engagement as we're rolling out of hopefully COVID, because it was very challenging to try to have some of these big presentations to highlight some of the things in the region and do it over Zoom. It was very difficult and very challenging. So hopefully we can engage back in those activities, and I really look forward to doing that. I also attended on behalf of my colleague who has a conflict with OWOW, sitting at SAPA as the OWOW representative, and a discussion of round 2 funding took place and some of the parameters. So that should be going and rolling out. People are looking at that. So I hope Western and our partner agencies are well aware of that, and we'll be able to submit projects for our opportunity at those funds. I also attended the Marietta City Council meeting last night to make sure that they know that we are their service provider in that area, and that we continue to provide and want to continue to provide excellent service for our customers in the Marietta division, and make sure that if there were questions about anything that came out of the MSR or the letter that they sent to Eastern Municipal Water District, I was happy to oblige. I look forward to and have asked the general manager and board secretary to start looking at dates so that we can get these workshops rolling. I wanted to get back onto these tracks so that we can bring everybody up and have a forum for you to be able to ask your questions in a more relaxed environment. Obviously, those will be publicly noticed. The public will be allowed to attend those. Certainly, we have one that's scheduled that I asked for, I believe, to do legal counsel first for any kind of litigation that currently exists, to give a kind of a roundabout. That obviously would exclude the public from being able to participate in that, but I think it's very important for all of our board members to understand the history of those cases, where we sit and the actions that have taken to this point, and what obligations we're looking at potentially in the future for liabilities or otherwise. So I'm looking forward to getting those dates on the books. I know you're working on it. I know it's really tough, folks, to coordinate a lot of schedules. We're coordinating schedules with legal counsel, we're coordinating schedules with the board, with staff, and trying to get all these to match with outside obligations and meetings that we all have. So I really appreciate the efforts and the opportunities, and hopefully once we get a standard date rolling forward, we can get some of those things done. We're also looking forward to doing the leadership and the strategic plan and some of those things that are coming up with our consultants that we're bringing on board, so that we can get the board together and talk about governance and what we're doing moving forward as a board, our communication, and what our priorities are. So I'm looking forward to continuing on with those discussions and making sure that we get off on the right foot, because we've been kind of delaying this for the last quite some time, because it's just so different when we're all together in the same room and being able to have that dynamic. So look forward to hearing what opportunities we have, looking forward to your questions, and looking forward to your ideas as we move forward with our mission, our vision, and our purpose. And with that, I think that's quite enough, don't you?
I thought I was busy. You look busy.
I feel like I haven't had a moment in the last couple of weeks. I feel like I just haven't caught up with myself yet. So with that, I will go ahead and move on to requests for future agenda items. Is there any member of the board who has a request for a future agenda item?
Madam President, I would like to ask for a closed session discussion of legal counsel services and I guess almost a performance review of legal counsel services.
Okay. Thank you. I also, is there anybody else? Okay. I also have a request for a future agenda item because I think it's really important for, and this certainly does not need to come back to the board. This certainly can go to committee if that is more appropriate, or to a workshop. But I believe it's very important for the board to understand that Marietta Division in and of itself was annexed in under a special accord with Metropolitan for paying those annexation fees. And I think we need to understand what exactly those provisions were and what the sunset date potentially we're looking at for those, because it's coming up soon. And I'd really like to know how many outstanding we still have. And I really want to just give an overview to the rest of the board what that actually means and have a detailed discussion over that and the ramifications of it moving forward. So however we need to present that at whatever appropriate platform that needs to take place. I think it's an important discussion to have because we're going to be staring at that decision here someplace. So with that, and seeing no other communications necessary, you have information in your packet for all of the usual things. I don't believe there is a closed session scheduled for any matter. Have I left anything off of our agenda today? Good Lord. Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and call the meeting adjourn and take into account, I believe, Director Torres, it was Clean Air Day, correct? Yes. Clean Air Day. And we look forward to seeing you at our next regularly scheduled board meeting on October the 20th. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.